Today I've acquired this old outboard. It's a Crescent, 4 horsepower, originally made by Volvo, I suppose in the 60s, early 70s. I just love these lovely old outboards. There's something very pleasing about them. They're simple engineering, very little electronics as such, very little plastic. I just love them. And I saw this on eBay, and it was about 15 mile away, and it had a start price of 25 quid. It's air cooled, 2-stroke of course, and no one had made a bid on it, and I thought, well, if it goes cheap it's worth a punt. And anyway, no one else bid on it, and I got it for 25 quid. And I got an email that night saying that from a woman that her husband was going through my village the next morning to work. Would I like it if he dropped it off? Well, yes please, thank you very much, I've got to get it. So first thing in the morning today, this turned up. So I'm really pleased. This is exactly the condition you want to get them in. Some people ask ridiculous prices for old outboard parts. I mean, I've found this with Seagull. You'll find some idiots break them up and want vast sums of money on eBay. I don't know what idiots pay this, but this is exactly how it hasn't been got at. No one has painted it. If you look at all the bolts, screws, there's no rounded corners, there's no... So I just knew immediately. My nose told me when I saw all this, of the absolute foul mix that was in there. It absolutely reeked. It does now. But that's just what I wanted to see. It means it hasn't been got at, and it's just been stood for ages and ages. So it didn't turn like this. As I say, none of these things move much. I'm not going to force them. And you mustn't go at these things at a bull in a china shop, but just take your time. This was at first quite stiff, and some plexiglass has cleaned that up. And the little catch under here, which is now nice and free and operated by little springs, that stops the thing from cocking up when it's in reverse, was solid, but there was a little bit of movement, so a pair of pliers, and I just moved it a little bit backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards, applying penetrating oil, and it's freed up and works perfectly now. So if you're into this, I mean all this gum and residue, that'll all come off with a little drop of petrol. It does mean I'll have to strip everything to clean it up, but what a super find. I just love anything like this. Let's take the top off. I have undone this cap. That was all sticky and solid. I'll have to clean that up, but it has come apart. But like all these things, it's been stood for so long, and you won't get parts for them now. So you've really got to treat things very carefully. Fortunately, there's no impeller with this one. They're virtually impossible to get now. Well, that's come off, and I believe, oh, that's undone. This should, well, the whole cover should hinge off if I'm right. Which way does it come? That way. That way? Yeah! That's what I want to see. Look, you can see all this is gummed up. I can see it's all gummed up. Look, let's see if I can zoom in there. Look, you can see everything is all sticky. But that's absolutely fine. Look, it's all sticky here too. But that will come off. That is absolutely superb. back the other way. This is going to be an absolute cracker. I'm so pleased I can't tell you, well I am telling you. Oh, that's moved. So it's a question of freeing everything up, cleaning everything down, make it look smart, smarter, oil things up, empty the bottom gearbox, put fresh oil in it, and this will be one more to add to the collection. Really like that. Superb. I'll just clean some of the gun jaw for the tank, just to make it easier to handle. A little drop of petrol. It's a good idea to find a little corner and just check that anything you use for cleaning won't remove the decal. And if it does, you'll kick yourself. No, I think that's going to be alright. So, no, it's not going to harm that. Wow, I think you can see already what I can see in my mind's eye. No, I won't rub too hard there. I really enjoy doing this sort of thing. Incidentally, I've just weighed this, the whole engine that is, and it goes just a shy under 25 pounds in weight. Now, compared to modern engines, especially these 4-stroke things, you need to be a sumo warrior to pick them up, you know. Ridiculous weight. 25 pounds. Some advantage to 2-stroke, isn't there? Well, I think you can see it's going to come. This residue, of course, is additives, oil. The petrol is evaporated, leaving this behind. And it might take several goes, but it's all coming off. So, I'll just carry on for a little bit. It's going to be a pleasure to handle. I wonder if my enthusiasm is coming across. Well, it's taken me 15 minutes to clean this up. It's, in my opinion, it's a good idea not to try and overdo it. It's got some battle scars, but I mean that's what it is. It's genuine wear and tear. Some people, in my opinion, go far too far with restorations and turn them into something that they're not. It looks wrong. I mean, there is a school that would say rub all this down, apply new decal and so forth. But I'm a firm believer in the saying, don't gild the lily. So that's as far as we're going with just that. I can only give you my opinion here, for what it's worth, but it's very important to adopt the right attitude. I can't move this choke lever. Ah! It's a bit stiff. Well, that's better. Well, that's better. Can't move the throttle. It works on a a very short Bowden cable that runs through here and obviously moves the needle valve up and down, but that's not moving, so I'm not going to force it. It's important to take things very, very steady. You can't turn the clock back when you're working on these sort of things. As I said, you won't get parts for them now, and it's so easy to break things, so you know, it's just taking the right approach and taking it steady as you go. But I absolutely love doing this sort of thing. Well, you've gathered that, haven't you? I've encountered a problem trying to take this bowl off. Anyway, I found a good socket. That's done it. Should that come with it? Don't know. Put a rag here to catch. Yeah. By gosh, the bong. Bit grotty, folks. That's as stiff as anything. So that's all gummed up. As I said earlier, I feel I'm winning. Winning. The more I'm working on this, the actual more chuffed I am. I know that sounds daft, but all the problems are curable problems if tackled right. By gosh, if you could smell what that smells like, it's awful. Can't describe it. I've taken off the rubber boot air intake, quite good condition, and undone this here, this clamp nut, so I can swing this out of the way. That's disengaged the choke, so you can see there's no stiffness there, so it's all here. So I've swung that round so that I can get at those two nuts there, little bolts, to remove the slide, and then I'll take the whole carburetor off and I'll soak it overnight. While I've swung the carburetor off and taken the body off, and that will get soaked. The pipe's quite hard, but I think it's going to be alright. I couldn't get the slide to move at first, and with the aid of a small screwdriver up the here underneath this part and some penetrating oil, and now, as you can see, the lever moves perfectly okay. So at this stage things are going too good. Gonna go and have a cup of tea. Ha ha ha! Don't get carried away. Learn to make one before you break one, eh? Okay, well, if you're encountering one of these for the first time, and I've had similar outboards in the past, but not this particular one. I had troubles getting that bolt out. Well, it's not a bolt, it's an integral part of the bowl which threw me. And while we're on that part, I've yet to soak this, but by blowing down the end, this little float operates the fill valve. You can hear it's not working too well, but I can't remove that little pin. I can't remove the jets. I've just got to feel that if I go and I'm going to break something. So sometimes it's a good idea to know how far to go. So what I've done with a very fine piece of fuse wire, very fine. I pushed it up the jet so that it's come through into the chamber. So I know we've got a passageway, albeit perhaps gum in there. And I know this little valve at the back here does actually work, although I'm blowing like mad down here, so that's not ideal. But I'm gonna leave it for now and soak this, as I say, overnight. And if I feel satisfied with it, I will leave it at that. It's knowing sometimes when to stop. I know I'm gonna strip something here, but that's the only major problem I've encountered so far. Anyway, we'll see how we get on. Right, we'll let that soak. Meanwhile, I've taken off the actual tank, so we're going to clean this up. Don't think it shows inside, does it? It's a bit rusty, but we'll flush all this out, clean all this down. You can see the state of this little filter bowl here. I think it'll undo with a moderate amount of heat. Yeah, that does work now. Okay, so that's the next job, clean that up. I've cleaned the exterior of the tank only, still the inside to do. And I've removed the actual tap. And this piece is a gauze filter that sits inside the tank, as I'm sure you know. But it's absolutely chocker. Absolutely chocker. You can just squeeze it a wee bit, so it should be an open weave gauze to filter out any rubbish, but that's just like a load of varnish, horrible mess on there. And I can't blow through the tap. There's 3 positions. It would be off, on and a reserve, but whether the blockage is within the tap, well, because all this is, I don't know, but that does unscrew from there to there, so we'll take that apart and give that a soaking. I'm showing out every aspect of this outboard restoration, as you've probably gathered. Well, this is day 2 of the Chrysler outboard restoration. I've soaked the carb overnight, and that's the colour of the field, and it operates absolutely superbly every time, the slightest touch. So I think I took the right approach. I said yesterday that I couldn't remove this little pin, just wouldn't budge, and I certainly couldn't move the main jet. And it was a good decision to leave it be. It's a good idea to know, if you've got a feeling for nuts and bolts, screwdrivers and spanners, you sort of know after, well, when you've broken as many bits and pieces as I have, you get to know. So I didn't pursue trying to undo this. It's made of brass, it's very slender, and it goes up into the body, and there's a very fine thread at that end. And, you know, I didn't want to consign this or the outboard to another one that's been got at, so knowing the risks of doing damage, that's the whole point of this video, is the approach on things. I'm not saying mine's the right way, but it's the way I work. Anyway, that is cleaned up really, really nice, as has the bowl, if you remember it before. That's nice and clean. The tank too is rusty, and that got a shaking, and that's the colour of the field this morning. I shall do it 1 or 2 more times in order to remove any remaining rust that's in there. It's not in bad condition. And the same went for the little tap. Unfortunately the gauze top I couldn't do anything with. I've actually cut away, which is a shame, but I'll put on a seagull gauze. It's a shorter, lower one, but it doesn't matter, that'll do the job. And I found I could take this apart by making up a little tool that unscrewed this, and you can move this about, and this little casting had 2 channels, and I poked those out and blew through those, and that works fine now. So we've pretty much conquered the field problems, I think. The crackling noises you can hear is my fire going. I've put that this morning because it's a bit chilly out there. And cut this. The reason I'm putting this piece of paper here is because I put a wooden plug in the tank, and after seeing that and the deposit in the bottom, done it a few times, and I've allowed it to dry out, and it's broken down excuse me, it's broken down the varnish in there. Looking in with a torch inside there, I can see this well, it's the varnish is sort of broken off, and if I do that, that's the idea of the paper here. I can that's going to cause problems, and we'll keep going until this is absolutely as clean can be. A mate of mine who works a lot on seagulls, he advocates filling it up with Coca-Cola. Nothing else will do, by the way. And it is the acid in the Coca-Cola that turns this oxide, this, not just oxide, it's, look at that, it's other ingredients, absolutely black, but whether that's the approach or not, I don't know. But the object of the exercise is to completely clean that out, of course. And when I've done that, and I won't show that procedure, but I'll carry on cleaning this, and I think we can then conclude that the fuel system has been dealt with. I'll digress just slightly, if I may, away from this. I'm not part of Google Plus rubbish. I mentioned this before. I just use YouTube. I think the day that Google bought YouTube was the worst thing ever. Anyway, the point I am making is that I'm sure by some comments, some I don't get if they're on previous videos, and I've done hundreds now, so I don't know, I don't look them all up. So if you haven't got a reply, or I haven't come back to something, I'm not being rude, I haven't ignored you, I haven't seen it, I'm not part of these circles, squares or triangles or whatever rubbish they're on about. I'm not into this social media stuff. I've said this before, I just do my own thing on YouTube. But it's a complete cock-up. I'm sorry, there's no other words for it. A lot of people who have subscribed to my channel in the past, and that's very nice of course, aren't getting notifications of what I've done. It's clear from what's been said, and several have resubscribed. It's a total mess. So this, so as I say, I digress. So if you wish to contact me, the only really sure way is to send me an email or send me a private message to my channel. Okay? Back to the plot. The tank I've done a few times and is now as clean as I can possibly get it. The condition is quite good, but underneath, wow, there's sort of signs of corrosion. It's not bad, but while I've got it apart, it's an opportunity to put something on here. So I've just marked up the thread of the tap and using a zinc spray, I'll just give the bottom a covering. This won't be seen, this is the bottom, and anyway, this is the approach I'm going to make. So should have given it a good shake, shouldn't I? Steady man. Very quick drying, this stuff. I'm only going to do the bottom. I'm getting a bit low. Well, I think it's pretty much covered it. I think we'll leave it at that. That'll do. Practically empty. 10 minutes, that'll change to a completely lighter colour. Well, as you can see, it's just dry, it doesn't take long. It's a really nice finish, this zinc spray. I rarely endorse any product, but if I like it I'll say so, and I do like Sebasto by Worth. It says what it does on the tin. I really like that. I don't throw anything away, even this muck, so long as I don't drag the bottom up. I'll use for just cleaning the rest of the body, and you can see how it comes up. It's good enough for getting rid of the grease and the grot, makes it pleasant to handle. The condition of it really is quite good. Look, marvellous, isn't it? Hee. This is going to really pleased with this one. This is going to have a high pride of place in my collection, I think. I just like it. Swedish quality, of course. I've gives you an idea. I've taken the plug out. Not too clever, but it's a BR8 HS NGK. That is the correct plug for this period of engine. So that's nice to see. Anyway, we'll clean this up before we put it back, and we'll check that we've got a good spark and so forth. Here the bracket is a bit stiff, but it works okay. And what I quite like is, this was the bracket clamp, which is sprung down and held down on this bar, with just a ball of rust and two little tiny wire springs caused that to come forward, and I'm amazed that it all works. Just a little bit of patience there, all isn't good news. Pan back. Other one. I pulled the engine over without the plug in, and we don't have a spark. Oh, I didn't particularly want to go down that route, but it looks like this video is going to be a mega long one. I thought, well, I will just check that it's not a faulty plug, because you never know, never assume. And I made up a few of those croc clips with the plug welded on. It doesn't matter what plug it is, just to try. You can pull it over and you've got the hands free. But no, there's no spark whatsoever. So, haha. Have we got point problems? Have we got coil problems? Didn't particularly want to go down this route, but we haven't got a lot of choice. However, I've got something else to investigate on the front here. Just here, we have, at first, looked like screws. Come around a bit more. They've got a hole in them, and when I looked on the back, there's a couple of wires go to them. Now, what could this be? It could either be, and I would have thought this is very early for this, it could either be a charging point, 12, you know, AC 12 out, something like that. This is far, far too an earlier model to have any form of dead man's handle, but I'll check it out for sure. Anyway, as I say, it's going to be a longish video. Sorry about that, guys. Go and make yourself a cup of coffee. Well, welcome back. As you can see, this leg has really turned out really clean, very nice. And I'm doing this video on the live, on the fly if you like. So my thoughts and comments are as and when. And I've had a look at this. I'm not daunted by this no spark business. It's just another problem to solve. And I've had a look at this taped up, a bit nasty, taped up inlet, which is above the exhaust here, so I suppose that warms that. But there's some more tape here and there's some cables. And I've suddenly realised at the end of there's a push button kill to kill the, and you can feel it, to kill the ignition. So if that's gone short, or there's something funny here, that could very well be the reason we haven't got a spark. So I'll investigate that before I decide to take off all the flywheel and investigate that. So let's eliminate this button. I've proceeded to take some tape off of this rubber boot, which I can see is split there. There's loads of tape and it's a job to unravel, but it appears to be held by these two bolts, screws. You've got a slot. Well, they're not tight. It's a good idea to get a screwdriver that fits well if you do have to apply force. But it's only into this sort of this should come out. Yeah, I think it will. If I take it out, I can see what's been taped up. Oh, that's a bit tighter. Right, I think, don't know which way it goes. It should come out. Well, it's loose. Which way is it going to come? That way? Yes, I've got it out. Right. I've got a hole in this, so we'll just investigate. It's purely air inlet for the carburettor, and it's sort of directed via this spout close to the exhaust pipe. Bit of preheating, I suppose. Anyway, that now gives us access to all this tape joint. We can have a look at this and we can clean this out. So, the fun continues. Well, I haven't left the camera running because I've been a little while here taking off all this sticky tape. And here we have a rubber sleeve which is all perish, as you can see, look. But there's 2 wires inside only, and one goes into there, and this one goes up to one of the sockets, which is earth. And we've got a little chock block connector here. Well, that's not original. Anyway, I've taken me meter leads, and on continuity, you can't see it from there, but take my word for it, that's working on continuity. And if we go from earth side on that side, which is this wire, and we come to that one, the meter is now reading a dead short, irrespective, and I'm pushing the end of the button no matter what I do, so that button has gone dead short, or the lead to it has gone dead short. So that's what's killed my... Couldn't be that lucky, could I? So theoretically, if I undo this joint here, I'd have broken the circuit and it should restore our spark. Well, we'll soon find out. Well, that's a so-and-so. It didn't restore our spark. Couldn't have been that lucky, could I? Anyway, I've taken the tiller arm off with the stop button on the end. We've only got 2 leads to it, so it can only be a push-to-make switch. And with the meter on continuity, it's no longer a short there. So it must be the engine end. Anyway, it's an opportunity to put some tape round where it goes into the metal, and to put some shielding on here, which is quite close to the exhaust pipe, and clean up these connections. But the mystery continues, folks. Wow, this little engine is becoming more and more bizarre by the minute. I don't scratch me head with this one. The 2 little sockets on the front here, it's the best way I can show that. The furthest one away from you has a insulated washer behind the nut, and yet on the opposite side, which is that one, it has a metal collar behind, making that earth potential. Whereas this one has an insulated collar which comes through this guard. It has a steel washer on the outside, so it looks as though they should be about face. Most strange, and yet it looked original. No other evidence has suggested anyone has got at it, but I think I'm going to have to take this top off and investigate this a bit further. Never mind, when I do get it running, notice the positive attitude there, folks. Not if, but when. When I get it running, the satisfaction will be so much more, won't it? And another first I've seen on this, and I've seen no other outboard with a pull start like it, is the pull start has a steel cable pull. Never come across that before. So that's the first. This is becoming very interesting. This really is a pleasure to work on. It's been well thought out. Everything comes away as it's meant to and as you expect it. Anyway, I'm going to take this off. I've removed all the slotted bolts. It was important to get a screwdriver that fitted them absolutely precisely, both in width, depth and everything. And in order to get more purchase, I've drilled a hole in that one so I can put a Tommy bar through and get extra purchase. And then taking out the bolts, this one, as opposed to the others, was much longer and a nut on. These are threaded. So I initially thought, well that's probably been stripped, but they were all original. And then it dawned on me there was a little clip which I've taken off which holds the ignition, the HT lead, and that's why it was longer. So I've marked it with a little mark. It's so easy to forget these things. But compared to the Chrysler Outboard, if you remember that one, that was well constructed. That was an unusual one, the Chrysler 3.6. But it was an absolute pig to work on, an absolute pig, because everything held everything else and no thought for maintenance at all. This is the other end of the extreme. I've pointed out that this is a flexible wire steel, most unusual, and it's now evident why this slot is here. It will hurt, because if I undo this collar, I should do, yep, that should come off. Pull that out. Now that can now travel up that slot, so I can take all this off and stand it on the bench. That's the theory. Come on. I've already taken off that bottom piece, by the way. That was just held on by two bolts. It's only the cowling and the ratchet mechanism. Ah, that's brilliant. Now, isn't that thoughtful? Isn't that thoughtful? Now, wasn't that nice? Now, well, it's all nice and clean and everything looks original. And it'll all clean up very nicely. All in all, it's going very well. Right. Find the right socket to fit that bolt. I should have left the camera running. I've only switched off for a moment. I found a socket to fit this, and with a tap with a rawhide mallet, it come undone first tap, so that's fine. So theoretically, it's coming undone. That's undone the nut that holds the fan and the flywheel, and underneath should be our points, coils and so forth, and we can just check out. Well, there's our nut, keep it safe. Is it on a keyway? I think it is. Can't see, I'll apply a little drop of there. Can't see, yes, a screwdriver. Oh yes, there's a washer on top. How am I going to get that out? Diddly-dee-dee-dee. I know! I've got one of these torches with a one of those on the little magnet, will it? It's at this stage where I've reached my first quite major problem. I put a puller on here. This is only a two-leg one. This is only alloy, and I've tightened it up pretty tight, and I'm frightened to go anymore. I've given it a tap. I've applied plenty of penetrating oil, but on this taper it's really strong, so I don't want to break anything, and it's you know, carefully from now on. So I'm not quite sure. I'm not going to tighten this anymore. I'll leave it under tension. Perhaps I'll try a moderate amount of heat round there, but bear in mind we've got magnets within the flywheel. It would be nice if I had a 4-leg puller rather than pull just at these 2 points. It's only an alloy, probably a die cast or casting. Wouldn't take much to break it, and then I'm really in trouble. I don't particularly like pullers that much. It's I mean, that you have to use them sometimes, but these on a Seagull are an absolute no. More have been destroyed by idiots using that is not the way you take them off. Anyway, we're not talking about Seagulls, we're talking about this little crescent. So, to be honest, at this stage I'm going to switch off the camera and I'm going to think about this today. I'll leave it under tension with penetrating oil. Knowing when to stand back and give it some extra thought is most important. As I said earlier on, you can't turn the clock back. Once something goes bang and you've broken it, and I'm determined not to. So, switching off the camera, and well, I'm thinking aloud here, so we'll see. Okay guys, I'm back. It's later on in the day, and I left this under tension and give it some thought, and I've expressed quite a lot in this video to sort of the right approach and take your time. Well, it's paid off in this case. I looked at it very carefully, and this little here and there, tiny little countersunk screws. I wrongly assumed they probably held the magnet laminations inside. Anyway, I've taken them off, and they're all around the flywheel arrangement. And immediately, on tightening this up, hardly any pressure at all, it's coming up. This is the first time I'm coming up. Here we go. And I don't know what it's done, but it's removed that outer ring. Okay, well, we're not going to bust that, are we? But now, what do we grab hold of to lift it up? Oh, well, that's another problem. One at a time, eh? Well, this little engine is really stretching me. Now that I've took this outer ring off, I've got nothing to pull against. And working on the assumption that these little screws, little countersink screws, actually did something. Well, of course they did something. There was 2 on top here. And I thought, well, that's not going to hold the flywheel on, that's for sure. But what it does, it allows me to turn this. And you can remove that, and you can look and see the points. So, and the coils and so forth. So, we are making progress, but this little engine is really taxing me, this one. It'll probably be one of my greatest achievements to have this one running on the boat. Anyway, again, I'm going to walk away and oh, I can see the condenser and everything here. Perhaps I can work through that hole. It's not impossible. Magnifying glass, penny a light, and we'll see how we get on. I'm switching off the camera again. God blimey, talk about keyhole surgery. It's the best I can get it for the camera and the light. There, pushing with my screwdriver, there's my points. And I've taken a very thin piece of crocus paper, folded it over and cleaned the points as best I can, working through the hole. And if I move the camera around, that's it. Here, I guess is the HT coil. It's would be the finest winding. And if I move round, there's our condenser. And if I go further around, that's it. Look, here we've got another coil, and this is much heavier winding. So we have power out, we have AC out, and with the aid of a diode we can use that to charge the battery. So I'm going to pop the cooling fins on top, put a plug in and just check whether we've got a spark now or not. If not, we'll have to pursue taking this off even further. Well, it's just occurred to me I needn't put the fins and the cowling all back. I can do it much easier. I've G-clamped the spark plug to the body. We'll drop the socket on there, and using my electric drill with a square and the chuck, we can whirl it up. So if you take a look here, if it will show it under this light, there's actually a good spark there. It's just that the camera doesn't show it to you. Well, I just want to get in there. That's good enough. So this is going to be left on. I've not been working on this full time, but this is day 3. I've reassembled all the engine, and I've sorted out the electrics. Just here, this socket, it looks black around there. It's actually a steel washer. That's my earth. That's from the kill switch down to deck, earth, ground, call it what you will. That kills the engine. And then the other one is power out, which is a crude AC. And here, this is an insulated little socket, and I found a fibrous washer which is pinky red, so that donates power out. And what I intend to do, because I've got this, might as well make use of it, I'll do a small voltage regulation come AC to DC little unit that can be made up for a couple of quid. I'll have it separate from the outboard, and it can be used on others, but I won't show that on this video. I'll do that on a separate one, because this was really running on and on and on, and you'll end up with a beard longer than mine. I've now come down to the gearbox end, and I've removed the plug, and there's not a lot of oil in it. It's a bit, well, it doesn't feel gritty, so I don't think there's any problems in there. I'm going to leave one alone, but it's low. Probably hasn't been changed for yonks. I don't know what it should have in terms of oil, but I've got a large quantity of Outboard 90, so I'm going to top up with that, and well, that's got to be better than no oil at all. So we'll see if we can dribble some in there. It's the easiest way to do it. Just take your time. There's no secondary bung to fill it to. These are usually filled vertically, so you can't put any more in. In other words, you don't fill the entire gearbox up. But as this has been low, we'll just keep an eye on it. You can actually take some more. It's quite low, very low. Anyway, that should be a lot happier now. Go on, go back in. You came out. I don't believe you. I do believe it. Come on, get in there. That's it. Job's a good one. Will you, won't you? Is that the end? Well, I've got a confession. Ta-da!